What is up, guys? It's your boy Speed here, and today I'm going to be going over 5 things I would do if I wanted to gain MMR fast. I've recently hit my peak MMR, so I felt that this is a good time to make this video. You know, I'm not just speaking out of my ear. You know, I'm actually speaking from experience and a journey that I've been able to take and honestly had some pretty good results. I've recently reached 10,800 MMR, so let's talk about how you guys can all aim in that direction and find some success in your pubs. Alright, before we get into the main part of the video, I do want to let you guys know that I'm not only posting videos here on YouTube, I also frequently post videos on the website. If you don't know what I'm talking about, almost every single day I'm posting a new video to the gameleap website. We're going to teach you guys in depth about how to get to the next level. So if you want to become absolutely broken, click the link down below and sign up. The first few are very easy to implement, then some of them are a bit harder, but yeah, the first 2 are extremely easy in my opinion. And have helped me drastically. A lot of you guys are going to have some aversion towards them, but you got to hear me out and, you know, maybe take my word for it. So the first one is to unsubscribe from Dota Plus. I know this might seem insane, and like, no, I don't have anything against Valve. I'm not saying this to, I'm not like, unsubscribe, I want Valve to lose money. Like, this has nothing to do with Valve. I don't want them to lose money, but I will say, I think the net worth chart, guys, the net worth tracker in the top left is just straight up a grief. Because it griefs the mental too hard. When you're losing a game, guys, you're already gonna feel bad. This is human nature. You're losing the game, you're not gonna feel good. It's just how it goes. There's nothing you can do about it, right? No matter how much you meditate, if the game is going poorly, it's very likely you're gonna feel some sort of negative emotion. This is life. You know what you don't need? Something reminding you that you should be feeling that negative emotion constantly. Something showing you that your game is trash, that you are underfarmed by 2,000 gold, by 4,000 gold, by the time it's the mid to late game, if your game's really bad, by 10,000 gold. You don't need to know that. And I noticed, like for the last, honestly, year, I would, in my games, constantly be looking at it. Like literally, throughout the game, I would be checking it every like 45 seconds. I really pay attention to everything, so maybe I'm a bit extreme, but I would notice myself doing that. It was terrible. I should be spending that energy paying attention to the damn game. I'm trying to win. I should be watching the map, not my net worth. My net worth, it's not irrelevant. Obviously, it's a stat that is somewhat useful in cases. But you know what you should look at? Say, okay, what items do I currently have and what can I do in the game in that moment? And just look at the screen and figure out what to do. What is in front of you? What can you do? Can I farm the camp in front of me? Can I take the tower? Can I make a move? Are they making a move on my mid? Can I TP? Just, you need to watch the game. The only thing that Dota Plus, I would say, unfortunately, is useful for is the stack timers. At this point, I know all the stack timers basically perfectly, and so I don't necessarily need it for that, but if you guys need the stack timers, maybe for a little bit of time, pay attention to the stack timers, and then honestly unsubscribe. It's a mega grief. It was griefing my attention. It was making me feel way worse in games where I was doing poorly, and even in games where I'm winning, sometimes you get over cocky. You're like, oh, my game is so good. Just focus on what is in front of you. That is how you will gain MMR. All right, the second one is on kind of the same note, and I think for a lot of people, this is difficult for them, and they're gonna cope a lot, and it is muting all chat. There is a setting, if you go in the settings tab of Dota and then you go to social, there's a setting that says allowed chat. I have it currently on no incoming chat. It is default on all players. When it is on all players, you hear everything everyone is saying. When it's on no incoming chat, the only thing you hear, well, there's a few things you hear, but the main thing you hear is laugh emotes. It's quite funny. You can't hear anything anyone's typing or saying, but apparently Dota lets tips go through and laughing emotes go through. So you know when your team's tilted anyway, but at least it's kind of funny. Like, honestly, I find myself laughing because I know my teammates are pissed at me in games where I'm feeding, right? It happens. You have your bad game, you're not doing well, or you're not doing what your teammates think you should be doing. And you could tell, right? And then you hear the spirit breaker. All right, that was I'm sorry, that was terrible, guys. But you get the point. It's funny. Like, I literally am laughing. It's funny. And in these games that are bad, I don't even feel as bad anymore because, yeah, I don't need to hear my teammates for the billionth time screaming at me that I'm not doing what they want and saying, where are you? Where are you, Wraith King? Where are you? I don't need to hear them say that. It doesn't do anything. And you might be like, oh, but what about communication? I will say, maybe if you get to extremely, even like where I'm at, maybe it's useful. Like I just had a game where Nightfall was on my team and he was actively just calling things, making play calls, and like, yeah, if you have someone that competent who's mostly just talking about how to win the game, and to be fair, I unmuted for that game because he was on my team and I know he's someone who talks a lot and I think it's someone I can learn from. right? He's above me and I respect that. And so I turned it off. But then in a team fight, we lost the team fight and he just started flaming me. Like, it was funny. And I'm not going to say there was nothing behind his flame, right? Like, I heard what he had to say. I mean, to be fair, it was just a flame. I took it and I wanted to like say, okay, I can learn from this. But at the end of the day, if I was in a worse mood because I was getting flamed my last 4 games, which can happen to you guys, especially if you're on a losing streak, you'll keep getting flamed because you're going to keep playing bad and it all snowballs. But thankfully at the time I was in a good mood, so I didn't care. But this was because I have turned off Dota Plus, because I've turned off chat. And so I can't stress this enough. Communication doesn't matter that much, guys. I know a lot of people think it does. They want to believe it does. They want to believe it's a team game. But if you want to get good, you just got to make good decisions and play the game well. Synergy should just naturally happen because you should know, okay, I need to play with the people who enable me. If it's a point of the game where I'm farming, I don't need anyone. If it's a point of the game where I'm fighting, I should be walking towards my teammates and clicking smokes on them or pinging their smokes or typing smoke in the chat. It doesn't require a lot of communication. You don't need to have a game plan for the next 5 minutes. Anyone who talks that much is just distracting. The last point I want to make for this is sometimes during professional tournaments, they'll do a behind the scenes, hear the communications of the teams. And I honestly notice that the good teams talk very little for the most part because you just gotta play the game. All right, the next one is to focus on 3 to 5 characters at a time. I feel like I'm exposing myself a bit right now. Hopefully none of my opponents are watching this. But there's only 4 heroes I really like playing right now, maybe 5. Obviously, for certain games, I'll add in an extra hero, but I have 5 main heroes that I primarily play, and I don't really stray away from it that much, right? And you might be like, oh, that's kind of risky speed. What if they get banned in captain's mode? But I have 5, right? And then worst case scenario, I can play the other heroes. I've played them a ton, right? I could whip out the Tim, I could whip out the Brood, I could whip out the Beastmaster, I could whip out the Undy Pants, the Underlord. For the most part, I'm playing 5 heroes. And I do this all the time because I want to focus on these heroes. I think they're strong. I think they do different things. So usually I'll have heroes that kind of complement each other. And this allows me to be able to quickly draft during the drafting phase and make a reasonable drafting choice. A lot of people will be like, oh, I don't know what to pick. And then they just lock in some like crap Bat Rider. And they're like, oh, I guess I'll play Bat Rider. No. So currently I play Lone Druid, Lycan, Wraith King, Dazzle, and Primal Beast. If I would need to play a hard initiator, I will pick Primal Beast, or I will sometimes default to Slaughter. He's number 6, but he's kind of a backup for me. If I need initiators, I'll do that. If I need a soft initiator, a hero with a stun, but I don't necessarily feel like I have to be the hard initiator, I'll pick Wraith King. If I have a melee support who I don't trust in the laning stage, I will either pick Lone Druid or Dazzle. If it is a free Lycan game, I will pick Lycan. And this is how I think. You can see it's extremely straightforward, but it allows me to be very consistent in my picks and prevent a lot of the things that I think are very bad. For instance, if I have a Pudge 4 and I pick Lycan and the enemy picks Naga, I will have no gain. So I will pick Dazzle because I do not think Dazzle has very many bad matchups. And that is how I see it, right? Obviously, there are going to be flaws to my logic. This has allowed me to get to high MMR because I will be consistently picking a useful hero for each game. You have to do that. And yeah, last thing to that, just switch it on patches. When patches come out, I switch up the heroes. All right, next up is learning how to farm in places that allow me to connect to fights. This is something that I've been improving on as of late, and I realize more and more how important it actually is. If you are playing any role, and your hero is somewhat on its timing, you want to be farming close to your team. Something I noticed that people either just strictly fight or primarily fight, 90% fighting, 10% farming, or they're 10% fighting and 90% farming. And usually, I would say most of the time, being good at Dota is kind of more of a 75-25, depending on what stage of the game you're at. Right? If you're on your timing, you should be 75% farming, 25% looking to fight. Like if they just happen to overextend or dive a tower, you're ready, right? You're kind of available, but you're 75% locked into farming. And so then on your timings, it switches. But yeah, I wouldn't go more into it than that. I don't want to like psych you guys out too much. If you're like in your farming phase and you're kind of learning how to do that, you can stick to it. If you're in your fighting phase and you're just practicing your team fighting, you can do that. But something that has really spiked my MMR as of late is just being more available for team fights. Right, just being in places where if a fight breaks out, or if I'm on my timing and someone walks up the hill, I'm ready to punish them, right? And this requires a lot of skill. It requires a lot of skill because if you play aggressive and you play in areas that allow you to connect to fights, you're often closer to the enemy team and likely to get ganked. And so it's this super fine line of understanding your matchups. Do they have Spirit Breaker and Storm Spirit and Ember Spirit? Do I need to be afraid of their gap close, right? Maybe I have to play a bit further away from them. If they don't, can I play a bit closer to them, right? How far ahead am I? Can I really push my limit based on my lead? This is all very difficult questions, and these are the questions that truly make you good at Dota. But as a starting baseline, learn how to farm in places that allow me to connect to fights or allow you to connect to fights. And then finally, honestly, if I was 3K MMR, I would just work on my team fighting. I know it's a simple ass point, but honestly, the main gold swings is in team fighting. And when I watch 3K, 4K MMR games, the games often are just a lot of team fighting. A lot of team fighting. And when I was around that MMR, the main thing I got good at was team fighting. I was very, very good at team fighting. I was good at not getting caught out of position at the start of the fight. I understood if I was playing Winter Wyvern, I had to be in the back. If I was playing Puck, I would go in first. If we had vision, I would go in second if we didn't, right? I understood these very basic but important points. They're not even basic. Like going in first on Puck if you have vision and second if you don't, I would say something most people haven't even thought of, but it's something you actually should know. I would work on my team fighting. I would know how to choose good targets. Who are the good targets for the game? Who can I burst? Who shouldn't I try to burst? Can I get to the back line? If they have a Drow Ranger, do I need to get my team to smoke and try to find her? Do I need to have more patience based on my current level of farm? I would just start to pay attention and watch professional games and how they execute team fights. Like truly, if you want to get to the next level, stop just spamming pubs, especially when you're tilted, take a bit of a break, go to a pro game, find a team fight, and watch how they click their buttons. Be very, very particular about it. How do they do every single spell, and what is their positioning throughout the fight, right? Do they go in first, second, or third? What are their matchups and why did they go in first, second, or third? Are they kiting out or are they continuously just running forward in the fight? These are the questions I would ask. And if you can generally solve these things, you'll get a lot better at Dota. So yeah, to summarize the video, unsubscribe from Dota Plus if you know the stack timers, mute all incoming chat, focus on 3 to 5 characters at a time, optimally ones that complement each other, so have some lane dominators, some game dominators, switch on the patches, learn how to farm in places that allow you to connect to fights, and finally, work on your team fighting. But alright, thank you guys so much for watching, hopefully you enjoyed, hopefully you're inspired, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace!
And that's all, but remember, before you leave, come on, before you tune out, subscribe to the gameleap website where we are going to help you get to the next rank. If you're stuck, click the link down below, and I'm out. Peace.